So I was lucky enough to get a code, right? I'm not like you losers who didn't get a fucking code, so I'm gonna play the game. All right, here we go. Okay. Plan B. So before I continue the video, let me just give a little background about myself. I'm a nobody. I've never played a Tom Clancy game. Well, besides Ghost Recon Predator on the PSP and Heartland, and now the Division 2, obviously. So basically, I have a very narrow and limited range of knowledge around the franchise as a whole. Now, I also did watch Frankie's video from like I was remembering it was like 2-3 years ago about the Division, and then I looked back on it again and I was like, oh, it's 7 years ago. Jesus Christ, and I also don't remember quite remember the gameplay about the game or how it played. Okay, so let's get into what I like about the Division 2. So I really like the attention to detail where you can have equipment on your back, your drone, like your drone deploys from your backpack. It's like there's an animation for it. It doesn't look janky. It's like very fluid and like fucking cool, I think. And I also like how when you're replacing your armor, you actually pull out the old armor and replace it with the new armor plate. Also shooting for extended periods of time, your barrel starts smoking and like turning red, which is like fucking cool. Also, the weather system is pretty amazing, and like the overall art direction and like atmosphere, the graphics, the story, like everything is just like all of that is like really fucking good. Now, this is also coming from someone who has skipped a lot of the cutscenes, excuse me, and started with the New York City expansion, the Eight Warlords or whatever the fuck it's called, and with a level 30 boost. So I didn't see a lot of the other older main story missions, but from what I can tell, the story has a lot of grit, which I like. Okay, so that's enough of slobbering the game. Let's get into the things I don't like about the Division 2. I did not know how focused of an RPG this game was, like having over 1 million armor or like 1 million damage or having like 500,000 health. It just seems like the numbers are extremely bloated, or I should say it's like more of a power creep to the game. I don't know. I never played it during launch, so I don't know how the damage numbers were at launch. Now, to be fair, the Division 2 does have a setting to turn off damage numbers, which is great. And after I found out that was a setting, uh, the game felt so much better not seeing massive blobs of numbers on your screen. Also, let's talk about bullet sponges, and this game has a lot of them. And yes, I do know that the Division 2 has addressed this issue by having elites that have breakable armor that turns into weak points, that exposes weak points. But the problem is that you still need to shoot like 100 rounds or like a significant amount to the point that it feels like a bullet sponge. So it's like, yeah, you can rip elites armors or like and expose weak points, but it still takes a lot of bullets to do that. So it's like it kind of doesn't really make sense. And yeah, those are the two main things that I don't like about the game. But obviously there's more, but I don't really like doing PvP because it just looks like dog shit to me. And also I don't like playing with other people, so I usually play solo in every single game I play, even though it's an MMO or something like that. I usually just play solo. So those are the two big the two things that stand out to me. So, Division 3 has been announced and it's confirmed that it's an actual thing. And I think the marketing for Division 3 is going to be heavily marketed as an MMO. Now, and I feel like the reasoning why is because I think that I think the developers are in a sunken cost fallacy with how the systems that they've used from Division 1 to use in Division 2, and I think Division 3 is going to be Division 2 slight with more things to do, right? It's going to be very similar to Division 2. That's kind of my thing. And Division 2 has obviously raids and all that shit where you can do like 8-man raids, 4-man raids. So there's also like towns or not, I guess towns, right? Where you can, it's a shared world where you can see other players. Like it has all the MMO aspects of it, but I never hear when people talk about the Division, it's like, oh, it's an MMO. They just kind of like, oh yeah, it's just a Division. So I feel like Division 3 is going to be like heavily marketed as an MMO. Obviously, I haven't seen any gameplay of the game. I have no idea how it's going to play. Obviously, it's going to be very similar to Division 2. I mean, like, I would be very surprised if like Division 3 was like a complete overhaul. I just feel like they're just gonna, it's gonna be very similar to Division 2. That's kind of my opinion. Heartland, I think there's not enough hype for this game. I think it's a sleeper game, and I'm 100% sure it's gonna come out soon. And it just looks insanely good. Now, there were some criticisms about the game being a generic BR, but I don't see this game as being a competition competing with BRs like Apex or Warzone. The game, I feel like, heavily is competing with Tarkov, because the way I would describe Heartland is it's an easier Tarkov and a new player friendly Tarkov. And I wouldn't have to put like 10 hours of researching into or tutorial and just watching tutorials on how to play Tarkov. So that's kind of how I see Heartland. It's an easier Tarkov, it's a more palatable game to get into. Now, I've seen somewhat of success like the what's that other game? The Cycle. The Cycle did pretty well, but obviously, that game kind of fell off a cliff. You know, I mean, the anti-cheat was pretty bad. I didn't play, but it did have a lot of press. A lot of big streamers played it, so yeah, that game it looked promising, but obviously didn't do well. But uh, the sole fact of that though is that this niche of like looter shooter type games, like similar to Tarkov, I think Tarkov's like the only game that has like really embraced that niche, and it's done it very well. And I think Heartland is going to be a a very PvP PvE obviously, but like focused. There's a lot of P's in that, but I think very it's gonna be very focused on competing with Tarkov. And yeah, obviously from watching the trailers of the game, they use a lot of reused assets, so it's like the game should be polished, right? It should be polished at launch. It's also going to be free to play. That's also huge. Obviously, they're going to have to deal with cheaters, obviously. Is God, dude, I don't even want to think about it. Hopefully, the anti-cheat is actually good, but who knows? Only time will tell. But yeah, that's kind of my take on like kind of the whole Division. What the fuck is it called? Isn't it like a sub franchise? It's like it's under Division. Heartland's under Division, and then Division is under Tom Clancy. I don't know. Fucking weird. That's kind of my rant about the entire sub franchise of the game. So yeah, I can't wait to see it. And yeah, peace.